Thank you.
You joined us
Thank
this
you for
morning.
taking the time. Thank you for taking the time while you're in transit. So kind of you.
Absolutely. And did Sachin, did you already introduce
No,
Rukmini to our leaders?
not yet. It would help if you could.
Okay, so I'll take a few minutes. Rukmini Mataji, just for your, I'm sure Sachin mentioned to you, but this is a Friday series that we started Jan of this year for all our leaders in the company, tier 1, tier 2 leaders. So we have global leaders, about 70, 80 of us who joined to kind of learn about, various aspects, from the Vedic wisdom on how we can become wholesome leaders. So quick introduction for everybody. Take a couple quick minutes. Rukmini Walker, she is one of the senior disciples and students of Swami Prabhupada. And over the years, she has actually lived in and managed many yoga ashrams, the US, Canada, and India. She and her husband, they actually started a non-profit to contribute to the community. They've had designer galleries in Washington, D.C. metro area, representing small studio artists, working in the mediums of jewelry, glass, and home decor. And of course, she is an activist in women's spiritual empowerment and interfaith dialogue. She is also the founder of Urban Devi Collective. If anyone is interested, you can check it out, urbandevi.com. She's a member of the board at one of the most inspirational, centers in New York City called as Bhakti Center. She's a board of trustee of the Bhaktivedanta College in Belgium. And she is on a board that advises the governing body commission of ISKCON. She has been actually practicing bhakti for over 40 years now. She's featured in the film Women of Bhakti. She writes, teaches, and leads workshops and retreats internationally. And I must actually say that she's been a great source of inspiration for me personally, as well, and my family and many of my friends over the last almost 25 plus years. And we are also fortunate to have this opportunity to hear from her. So, Rukmini Mataji would like to request you to please enlighten all of us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sham. So kind of you. Thank you for such a very generous introduction. And thank you all for sharing this time, letting me share my thoughts with you on this topic of radical personalism in the workplace. To begin, I would say that sometimes I myself feel a little bit impersonal or uncaring or a little self-absorbed in my dealings with other people. And I'm just wondering, do you ever feel like that yourself? A little uncaring, a little impersonal, a little self-absorbed. So this conversation about radical personalism, I'm hoping can move us from a me first type of perspective to an us first sort of a point of view. Sachin, can you please put up that screenshot? So this is a definition of radical personalism from my perspective. Let me read it out to you as well. Radical personalism is the revolutionary notion that asserts above all else the personhood of all humans, other living beings, and God, who is the source of us all. A culture of radical personalism demands of its members the understanding and cultivation of personalist principles for creating and nurturing a loving environment of compassion, care, mutual respect, integrity, spiritual understanding, personal growth, and unity in diversity. So maybe we can leave that up there for just a few minutes for all of you to take a look at and ponder. So in this, here we are in this corporate sort of a setting, and I was thinking, why do people form companies anyway? Well, we could all say for profit, right? But these days, many investors are finding that involving the quality of compassion for the environment, for society, and in the way that companies produce their products, manage and treat their employees, their vendors, their customers, is actually translating into massively more profits. You may be aware of this ESG phenomenon: environment, social, governance, caring for the environment, caring for the society, and caring about the ways we run our companies. I don't want to talk so much about that, but I'd like to look beneath it and try to understand some underlying principles to explain why that initiative has been so successful. And I think these are some of the principles of radical personalism. The idea behind radical personalism is to honor the personhood of all life, as diverse as it may be, in what the philosopher Martin Buber called an I-thou relationship. Such, and maybe you can take it down now. Not sure, I hope everybody got a chance to ponder it. Yeah, so this idea, yeah, don't put up the gratitude ladder just yet, please. Maybe you can just take them both down so that I can be seeing people's faces, yeah. So yeah, this idea of an I-thou relationship, instead of objectifying the other, right? Or those who look or think differently from me. And let's face it, when we walk into the office, we don't leave our personhood behind at home or hang it on a hook at the door when we walk in. No, I'm a human being, a person, first of all, always and everywhere. And that should be honored always and everywhere. The term personalism in the West first appeared in print in 1799, and there are different versions of it, different schools of thought. It would be best to call it a worldview that emphasizes the importance of human persons in the sense that the real is the personal. It was a reaction to the kind of depersonalizing elements in the Industrial Revolution, Darwinism, and also Aristotle's definition of man as the rational animal. It's about the dignity of the person, consciousness, free will, and about community, and about how as persons we exist in relationship and never in isolation. This personalist school of thought inspired Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when he was a doctoral student at Boston University. And it motivated his work in recognizing and uplifting the dignity of every person, and in seeing our interdependence and developing the idea of the beloved community. So yeah, what would it look like to be more aware of our interconnectedness and the interdependence of all life? And I'm thinking you may have discussed some of these ideas here before. For example, what do we lose when we lose a population of honeybees? Can we make a proactive change now before it's too late to find out? In 1948, the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights was conceived to honor all human life. And it was revolutionary at the time, but now we're seeing the need to include all living beings, not only human beings in this declaration. Bhagavad Gita says that one who is wise sees the same spirit essence in all living beings, no matter what the external body appears to be. The body is like a coat, right? That covers the real person inside. The theologian Reinhold Niebuhr says, and I quote, he says, "We're all individuals, but we're not self-sufficing. The law of nature is love. a harmonious relation of life to life in obedience to the divine center and source of our lives. And then he says further that this law is violated when we seek to make ourselves the center and source of our own lives. So this is my question. How can we practice this harmonious relation of life to life more consciously in the workplace? A few ways might be by honoring unity and diversity, by becoming more aware of our implicit biases toward those people of another race or gender or religion or cultural background or age, and to try to see myself more as a tiny part of a greater whole. Or to strive for a radical inclusion of all voices. Sometimes the greatest wisdom comes from the smallest, usually unheard voice, the one who no one ever thought to ask. Like the brave little innocent child in the story of the emperor's new clothes. He was the only one to call out the emperor by saying, "Hey, this emperor has no clothes on," right? Everyone else was too timid or too invested in their position or prestige to speak out. I was thinking that I remember when one of our stores, one of the stores I owned was in the airport here in Washington, DC. There was a lady who cleaned the bathrooms. And if you asked her, "How are you today, Betty?" she would invariably say, "Today I am blessed. I am blessed." It was such an example to me. And I have to say that I personally observed that some of the top executives who were making the high six-figure incomes would sometimes come by the bathroom and ask for her advice on their personal problems. So how blessed are we feeling these days? And how empowered are we feeling to be able to share those blessings with others at work or at home? Is my team building style inclusive, or is it divisive? Am I able to pause, to be curious, to deeply listen and honor the differences between myself and another coworker? Or do I lean on snap judgments and undermining comments, self-promotion, demeaning criticism, or fear-based control issues? Can I try to uplift and understand another person in a way that's just a little bit more rooted in humility and gratitude? It's said in the Bible, in Proverbs, that a grateful heart sits at a continuous feast. That's Proverbs 15:15. So Sachin, can you put up that screenshot of the gratitude ladder, the second one I gave you? I'm showing a screenshot of something I hope that you'll find useful. So it's called the gratitude ladder. So take a look and see what you think. Let me read it from the bottom up. So the result of an ungrateful mentality would most likely start me at the bottom, right? Depressed, angry, hostile, stressed, burnout, self-righteous, judgmental, blaming, defensive, insecure, worried, anxious, irritable, bothered, impatient, frustrated. And here's where the shift starts to happen. Curious. Can I become a little curious about others outside of my own little tiny head and universe, right? So curious, interested, flexible, adoptive, misspelled, sense of humor, patient, understanding, appreciative, hopeful, optimistic, resourceful, creative, innovative, and then wise, insightful, and at the top, grateful. So just something to think about, right? To better our relationships, better handle obstacles, improve energy levels, just move us up the ladder, and to be more aware of what am I thinking right now? What is my motivation right now? And then in this way, the world looks different and better. Right. So please take that screenshot down, Sachin, if you would. And I wanted to do an exercise with all of you. Let's see if this can work. Things are a little tough on Zoom, but let's just try this. So I want to ask you if you could each type into the chat some quality you observe and appreciate in someone in your office environment who is very different from you. Someone who's maybe different from you culturally or racially or gender-wise, or someone of another generation or religious faith. So do you want to try that? Let's see if this can work. You want to, and of course, don't put a name up. Just is there something you can learn from this person who's so different from you? Fairness. Great. Ganesh says. Yeah. What else? Any other ideas? Fairness. Come on, guys. Sense of humor, determination, passionate, open-mindedness, balance, agility, considerate, sensitive, I missed one, driven, patient. Yeah, great. Thank you so much. So, yeah, it's said that the rising tide lifts all ships. Have you heard that one before? Patience, contentedness. Great, thank you. Yeah, it said that the rising tide lifts all ships. In other words, when we honor and try to uplift other people, we ourselves become uplifted as well. So I want to tell you a story that I find very beautiful and helpful. It's a story about a monastery that was suffering a declining population. The older monks in the monastery were dying off, and the younger ones just weren't joining. And the head abbot decided to go to the local rabbi and ask for his advice. So when he went there and asked his question, the rabbi said, "I really can't help you." But he said, "I can tell you one thing, that one of you is the Messiah." And the abbot was so shocked. He went back to the monastery and shared with the other monks what the rabbi had told him. And each of them began to ponder this. And they're thinking, well, it couldn't be Brother Thomas. He falls asleep during Mass, but maybe. Or it couldn't be Brother James. He's so untidy, but he is very pious. And so it went on and on. And little by little, they each began to treat each other a little bit differently, because perhaps this simple brother was, in fact, the Messiah. So can we also try to invoke the better angels in each other and in ourselves? This would be a culture of radical personalism, I believe. And Mother Teresa said that the problem in the world is that we've forgotten that we belong to each other. There's a story of some teachers and school children some time ago in Afghanistan. The teachers brought the children to a garden and told them to pick all the flowers of every color except the blue ones. And after all the different flowers had been picked, the teachers asked the children to go back and see, how did the garden look now? And the children said that now it was just not as beautiful as it had been before, with no diversity of color, with only the blue flowers. So in conclusion, just let me share again this definition of radical personalism. Sachin, can you post that up again? Radical personalism is the revolutionary notion that asserts, above all else, the personhood of all humans, other living beings, and God, who is the source of us all. As such, a culture of radical personalism demands of its members the understanding and cultivation of personalist principles for creating and nurturing a loving environment of compassion, care, mutual respect, integrity, spiritual understanding, personal growth, and unity in diversity. So in closing, here's a meditation. Maybe you can close your eyes and take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath. Can we learn to turn to each person as the most sacred person on earth, to each moment as the most sacred moment on earth that has ever been given to us? This moment will never happen again because no two moments are ever alike. Can we awaken a bit more, breathing together in harmony with God? Please take another deep breath. And if you could kindly open your eyes. So maybe, Sachin, maybe you can take down that screenshot of Radical Personalism. And these are a few thoughts on bringing this mood of radical personalism into the workplace and into the world. So thank you all so much for letting me share this time with you. What's your takeaway, or what's your reflection on all this? Or maybe someone has a question. I think we have good time here. Thank you so much. What do you all think?
The playground door is located in the front center of the aircraft. No unauthorized persons may attempt to enter the
This was
Hearing some chatting.
at any time within the cabin.
Maybe if you're chatting on this side, you could mute yourself. I'm looking at other qualities here. Personal attention, I missed that one. That was beautiful. Sense of humor. Fairness. Yeah. Any thoughts?
Just
Any
mentioning that,
reflections? Yeah.
just wanted to thank you for a brief but very crisp presentation.
Thank you.
Again, you kind of slowed us down and made us think on some of the very basics of interacting with each other. So very beautiful, and really appreciate. Request everyone, if you have any questions, you can take them now.
Thank you.
Should say this was very beautiful. This is a big area of improvement for everyone. I feel so small listening to you.
Beautiful. That's the way to feel. You know, I call it, who is that speaking?
This is Hari Purija. Harry,
Yeah.
yes.
Beautiful. You know, I have a saying, my son teases me, but I call it the satisfaction of sacred smallness. So, the satisfaction of sacred smallness. And I think it comes from the beginning of our lives when our parents are telling us, you're such a big boy, you're such a big girl. And then we start to become more and more inflated at that point, But yeah, to be small and think, I'm just a little cog in the wheel in this company or in this world. And what can I do to be a path smoother? What can I do to make things run more smoothly in this company or in this family or in this community or in this world? What can I do to smooth the path for others? And then as I said about the rising tide, right? The rising tide lifts all ships, then we also become uplifted. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was amazing. Thank you so much, Rukmini.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Who is that speaking?
This was Ganesh Palwe.
Thank you, Ganesh.
This could be part of our HR system, the gratefulness and the personalism.
Yeah. I mean, people are finding that it actually works, right? People are talking so much about empathy, and people are seeing that it really works. Actually, I wasn't sure if there'd be time. I have something else I could share from Albert Einstein. Are there other questions, or anybody else have thoughts?
I have a question.
Yes, please, Anita.
I'm just wondering, in the workplace, if you're in a workplace where perhaps this is a new notion, do you have suggestions of how we can start to shift the culture, to shift or encourage this shift that you're talking about?
Yeah, Gandhi said, be the change, right? So in tiny, tiny ways in an office environment, you can do something that will break the ice and create a path for someone else to also show some random act of kindness. For example, if you know so-and-so always gets up and gets his coffee or her coffee at 11 a.m., right? Just go over and get the coffee for them. Or, have a jar of those yummy Anita homemade cookies on your desk. Anita makes amazing chocolate chip cookies. So, have a jar of those cookies, offer them to God before you offer them to others, because he's the source of everything, right? And then you'll be the most popular person in the office, right? Of course, on Zoom, that's a little hard, right? Hard to eat cookies over Zoom. But do something unwarranted, unasked for, some kindness. And then that just breaks the ice for someone to reciprocate. Oh, muffins, right? Yeah, that breaks the ice for someone to reciprocate in some unwarranted, unasked for way. And this changes culture. I believe this is like the reverberation, the eddy going in the other way, right? There's so much we read in breaking news that breaks our hearts, right? But these are the eddies that can go in another direction to change the world. And Margaret Mead said once that never think that a small group of concerned citizens can't change the world. She said, in fact, it's the only thing that ever has. So this is culture changing, I believe. This is radical personalism. Let's talk about it more, think about it more, and do some tiny thing. And if you feel like, well, what could I possibly do? Pray about it, pray about it. And some idea will come to you. What tiny thing could you do for your kids or for your husband or wife or for someone in the office? That boss who's always taking advantage, do some kindness to that person, or some unheard voice who, that little timid voice. I really so often find those timid voices are so often that's where the wisdom comes, from those unheard voices who feel a little shy to speak. What else? Anybody else have any thoughts or questions, takeaways, feedback?
So, Rukmini ji, my personal belief is that amount of happiness we enjoy in life is directly proportional to amount of gratitude we have.
Very
So
true.
this session
Very true.
plays right into that. So I would like to connect with you
Yes.
offline. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And the fact is, what did I bring into this world, right? I came here naked. We all came here naked. Nothing, there's no trait or ability or opulence or wealth or anything that I have that I brought into this world. Everything has come to me as a gift. Even I think, well, my great intelligence, that's mine. No, that was given as a gift from God. So what we do with those gifts from God will be our gift back to God and to the world, because each one of us is like a snowflake. Each one of us is unique. There are no duplicates here. Each one of us is unique, and our gifts will be unique. And if we don't share those gifts, then the world will be that much less. So thank you for your thought about gratitude, Ganesh. Anybody else have any thoughts they'd like to share? Best part is when I stop speaking and all of you share something.
Rukmini?
Yeah. Yes. Oh,
Good
Robert.
morning. Hi.
Good morning, Robert.
I like your reference to the monks regarding there's a Messiah amongst us, and I think I've heard Swami also say that treat everyone you meet as if your spiritual life depended on it. And conceptually, it's such a great idea, but it's easy to do with people we like and love, but much more challenging to do with people we don't like or perhaps are giving us a hard time. How do you approach that, Rukmini? How do you take that attitude in a situation where someone that is annoying you or perhaps you just simply don't like?
Right. Take it as a challenge. Like, okay, I'm going into battle here, and my challenge is I'm going to bring out the better angel in this person who maybe I don't like so much, or maybe doesn't like me so much. So this is the battle cry, right? How can I bring out the better angel in this person who's a little antagonistic or depressive or irritable or whatever. What could I do? Could I bring him his coffee this morning? Could I, something. Pray about it and see what you could do to just break the ice on that. Because in fact, inside everyone has the same soft heart. Everyone is longing to be loved, to give love, but we put up these hard shell, armor around ourselves. And it's a mask, really. So we have to take off the masks and find the humanity within ourselves and within others. Take off the mask, try to help open up that armor and find the heart. So that would be my answer. Take it as a challenge, battle cry. Thank you. I don't want to take too much time. Does anyone else have any thoughts they'd like to share? Any feedback or question or anything that was important for you? Robert liked the story of the Messiah. Anybody else?
I was just wondering to what you had said about the question that Robert had. Could they also be our
Yes.
soul teachers when we have a difficult situation and we be thankful?
Absolutely. Oh, yes. Thank you. Great point. What's your name? I'm not seeing your name on this.
Anu?
I'm sorry?
Anu?
Anu. Anu, I'm not seeing your name. So thank you. Anu, that's brilliant. And it's so important you said that, because in fact, whenever someone pushes a trigger for me, that's because I have that fault in myself. Otherwise, it wouldn't bother me, So when someone does something that really pushes my buttons, like they say, we're pointing a finger to someone, there's so many fingers pointing back at ourselves. So that's the fact. That only triggers me because I have something to work on within myself. And so that's a really, really important point. This is, this trigger it's a gift from beyond, right? To look at what is it in myself that's bothering me about this person, and then reach out to help. So brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I don't want to keep you all. I know you have business to do. Anybody else before I thank you and say goodbye?
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Rukmini, for this amazing presentation. Really appreciate great
Thank you,
pointers for
Shyam.
us to take home. And thank you to everybody for joining. And have a very happy Friday and a happy weekend.
Thank you. All the best. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.
You.